Hey everybody, ModelMan here with part 1 of the freezer tube session. I've got 6 tubes. Each of them was glued into place at one point, but I either pulled them or one fell out, or however it happened. They were disassembled. You can see all the glue marks where they were pulled up, and that's how I'm doing some best guess on which tube goes where. So for example, this is the strongest candidate. So for example, this guy here is the strongest candidate with that big chunk of floor paint there and that strip there. That would seem to coincide with this big chunk there and that strip there. This guy here has this little bit and that little notch down there. This one's not as obvious, but the plastic here and here semi-correlate with the front. So this plastic here correlates with that damage there, and then this seems to correlate with what will fit in there. This guy has this little notch right there, and again on the pad. These two are fairly non-distinct. There are certainly differences between the two, but lining them up to the floors is pretty much a hit or miss. I'm guessing that this one, because of that little scratch bit right in there, aligns to this little bit of scratch stuff right there, and this one, there's no real distinguishing marks. Perhaps this little patch here could correlate to that spot back there, but there's really nothing else that gives them away. And I also have one scrap piece of floor paint that just fell loose a moment ago, and several bagged pieces as well. So whether those go down first or what, I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but let's get a test fit of all the tubes in place and see where it goes from there. So in addition to the tubes, it looks like I'll also be doing the Jacob's ladders now as well. Those were not glued in before. I didn't think, but there is a chip on the floor that suggests they might have been. So let's get these in some kind of order here. And we'll do them one at a time. I was thinking I was going to glue them, but definitely going for the test fit first. And now the question is, which of those two looks better? The top one has bare metal foil. The bottom one, rolling out of view, is standard plastic with standard silver paint on it. Also using the default piece. Also using the default plastic that comes with the kit. You'll note the other two pieces also have air bubbles in them. Oh, the question here becomes, which of those two looks better? The one on the bottom is all default pieces. The one on the top is going a little, it's going just a few steps further, using the default bottom piece, but dressing that up with some bare metal foil, which is the same as at the top. The reason for that is because the tube itself is actually a piece of side glow fiber optics from the fiber optics store, as opposed to the default plastic, which has air bubbles in it from the kit producer, which is basically no fault of theirs. It's just an artifact of the injection molding technique. When you do get air bubbles like that, it's just too bad, especially in something like this. The fiber optic tube at the top is just a little thicker than the one at the bottom, and some modifications have to be made. I'll show those. I'll show those in a few minutes. So initially I used bare metal foil here because this end cap here is just too thick to fit onto the fiber optic tube. So I figured rather than trying to hollow this out and carve it just a little bit further, just do that. It's at the top of the soffit, so it should be fine. The silver of that is of course much different than the silver of this, so I figured, well, let's wrap the bottom in the bare metal foil too. The problem is there's so much curvature that it's prone to wrinkling, and there's some complex stuff going on down there, including this rim here. So I'm probably going to use the foil at the top, skip it at the bottom, so it'll have this normal bottom and that top with this tube. And that also means if I drill this out just a little bit, I can get light into here. Or I could potentially do it from the top as well. Alright, so when last we left this, I decided just off camera to shave off the nub on the tip of this and then drill it out. And in so doing, I created a path wide enough for this fiber optic to flow through. So now, a fairly major difference. Alternatively, I can also fit a 3mm LED in here. I don't know which would be better, so I may just test both, but I do have the fiber optics handy. So that means all the rest of those little nubs are getting drilled off. I am proceeding with the foil tape on the top, but probably not on the bottom because it's going to look too wrinkled no matter how well I try and get it down flat. And I can say goodbye to the original 3 plastic tubes that come with the kit, solely due to the air bubbles that are within. But even if they had no air bubbles, they still wouldn't give quite the glow that fiber optics would. So I've got a few modifications to make there. The tubes themselves appear to be ready to get glued down. I may do a slight repair in there using some JB weld of all things. There's a big paint chip on the floor. There's a big paint chip on the floor here that is just a little too excessive to be seen. Unless it happens that a couple of these paint chips belong there, which I really don't think they do, then basically if I flatten that out with a little JB weld, feather it down nice and close, then and respray just that small area, I should be able to get it to look well again, I think. Will it ever be seen? If I make the center top off so that if I seal the entire hull in, then I'll make the center top able to be removed, in which case you'd have a down view of the floor, and it may be visible. Otherwise you'd be looking through the back room where it would be, yeah, the prime one you see essentially. So I'll take a look at the options as we get real close. I think what I'll do is start on these guys and see where that leads me, and because there are some modifications to do. Let's go from there.